We're back and we're so excited to have Katherine Giovanni with us today, author, speaker, and forgiveness coach.
Mm. That's so cool. I'm already so intrigued, like forgiveness coach, because I'm in the coaching world and finding your niche is, a thing that we experience. How did you find yourself kind of walking that path and finding like that was what was aligned for you?
It came out of dysfunction,
Yeah.
I
to
love
be
that
really
answer.
honest. It came out of dysfunction. You see, when it comes to forgiveness, everybody tells you you have to forgive. Everybody, everybody,
I've
parents,
actually heard
teachers.
therapists say you don't.
Yep,
I think
yep.
for me, I think it depends on how you define it, but I'm sure you'll probably get into all that.
Well, everybody tells you you have to do it, but nobody teaches you how.
Yeah.
All true. I want to know the
And
definition. I want to know how, all of it.
and what if you don't want to? What if it's unforgivable?
Yeah.
Mm.
Then what do you do? So that therapist and I are the two people on the planet who will look at you and say, you don't have to forgive the unforgivable.
Mm.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of people, places, and things. I did say places and things. Stay with me. That you can forgive before you even get to that dumpster fire. So on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable horror and one being the easiest person in the world to forgive, every single one of you, 10 out of 10, including the two of you, are probably thinking of your unforgivable person, and that's completely fair. They hurt you. They hurt you deeply. But the system I've developed, which is a step-by-step system that's going to take you exactly how to forgive people, and we'll go through it on this podcast. I'm happy to share. I want you to start with your number ones. Let's start with the easy ones first and work our way up to the dumpster fire. That's part of the system.
Mm.
Okay. So
So, what is forgiveness? Like, how would you, because I feel like a lot of people misunderstand it to begin with. So,
Sure
how
they
would
do.
you explain it?
First of all, forgiveness doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably
mm,
don't. Forgiveness does not mean I'm all of a sudden telling you you're right and I'm giving you a pass. You're
Right.
still wrong and you're still a dumpster fire. I
Yeah.
think that comes from our childhood when we're all in kindergarten and the teacher says, now go say you're sorry and then go play with each other. And I think it just it kind of morphed out of that. But it doesn't, they're still wrong. I mean, they're probably not even thinking about you, they're going about their life. They don't care. And for the ladies listening to this, yeah, when your significant other dumps you, you kind of want them to mourn you for a month or two, right? You don't want
Mhm.
them to just move on right away. You want them to just kind of wallow like you're wallowing, but they're not. They're living their life.
mm.
And
It's a harsh one.
forgiveness, the official definition for me means I want you out of my head.
Mm.
I want to stop thinking about you. I want to stop dreaming about you. I want you out of my head. And forgive doesn't mean forgive and forget.
Mhm.
That's a lie. I don't know who came up with that, but it's wrong. I'm from New York originally. I'm not forgetting anything. There, there might be a unicorn person on the planet that can forget these things. I'm not your girl. But what I can promise, once you've used my system, I can promise you that when you look at that person's name, there will be no emotional charge. You
Mm.
won't care. You can go on Facebook or social media or the Thanksgiving Christmas party and see that individual and you won't care. And that I can promise you.
So, would you say it's kind of like your ability to let go of your attachment to that person?
Yeah.
Okay. I think
See,
I'm
the
under.
thing that everybody forgets is Einstein did say that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms from one thing to another. So when you get angry, the emotional energy leaves your mouth and you think it dissipates into the universe. It does not. It hangs in your energy field. So everything has an energy field around, including this tiny little microphone. Everything has an energy field around it. So a lot of people will come to me and say, Katherine, I did forgive them. I'm sure you did. You did the work. But they have a nasty habit of not staying forgiven.
Mm.
Why? Because you didn't forgive the energy. You didn't
Mm.
forgive the energy around the person you're forgiving. Now, one of the things in my system, I could take the stress out of everybody's body right now, is in my world, forgiveness is personal and it's selfish. And you do not have to reach out to the person and let them know you're forgiving them. You can do it in the privacy of your own home and nobody's got to know.
I love
Amen.
that.
And because no, you don't have to reach out to them, dare I say, you can forgive dead people because it doesn't matter where they are or are
Right.
not. They're alive and well in your head.
That's the
Yeah.
truth.
So you
So
can forgive dead
forgiveness
people
is
too.
for you.
It's for you. It's 100% selfish. It really just means I want you out of my head. I want to live my life again. Let me
Yeah.
give you a visual. If you're listening to this, hop over to the video and watch the demonstration. But if you're listening, I'm about to hold an opaque coffee cup right in front of my face. When I first get angry, this is resentment and anger. And look at my body language. I can talk to the two of you really easy. It's not a problem. I can manage my anger, I'm telling the therapist. Why? Because it's easy. I'm holding it off to the side. I can cover it up. Easy peasy. The longer I hold on to this, we're humans, and humans irritate other humans. So I'm going to continue to pour more hate and bitterness and resentment into the cup. So now I'm using two hands to hold up the cup. Okay, it's starting to hurt now. And it's starting to permeate my conversations because it's starting to hurt. So I'm starting to notice it and pay more attention to it and less attention to the world around me. And if I continue to hold on to it, well, now this is why you end up in therapy, because it's all I can see. It's all I can talk about. I can't even see you two. I'm not conducting my life. So by using my system, it's going to allow you to put down your little glass of anger and start to pay attention to the world again. You might see a money-making opportunity. You might see a new career, your significant other. Why didn't you see it before? Because you were too focused on the anger. So by putting down the anger, even with the easy ones, starting with the really easy ones, it's going to allow you to live your life again. It's going to get all these things out of your head to create room for more stuff, better stuff, good stuff.
I can't help but be curious about what the dysfunction was that led to your forgiveness journey.
You would. You so would.
It's all
I'm so
good.
nosy.
I've written 12 books and I seem to be God's guinea pig because I go through this stuff and then I write about it because I think it's going to help people. And I recently looked up at the ceiling and said, dial back the severity. You know, I'm kind of done right now.
Yeah.
Oh.
In the 19, never mind what year it was. I was in the I was in the 8th grade and my parents were both horrible alcoholics and they were getting a very ugly divorce. And I was bullied in school because I'm different. And so I tried to commit suicide and
Oh.
didn't work. And I spent the next 15, 20 years as one of those kids, you know who I'm talking about, all draped in black, one friend, always sick and tired. But I lived in New York and we all wore black, so I'm not even sure that that qualifies,
Fitting
but
in.
you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And about when I was like 25, 26, my mother fell down the stairs, broke her hip, and ended up in the hospital. And even my mother couldn't get a gin and tonic in the hospital. So she
Mhm.
dried out and she went to rehab. And we spent the next 3 years closer than sisters. We were tight. We forgave each other. We did everything together. And then she got breast cancer and she died.
Oh.
And I knew that if I didn't change my life, I was going to die too. So as I created a New Year's resolution, the only one I ever kept in my life, and I've been sober now for, what year is it? 35 years.
Nice.
And I met my husband of 33 years about a year later. When you go through these programs, you're supposed to make amends and do a 4th or 5th step or whatever step it is. I don't even remember at this point. And the thing is, you're supposed to reach out to these people.
Mm-hmm.
Your girl was shy. So the thought of reaching out to anybody left me cold, didn't want to do it, didn't do it. I'm now what they call an extroverted introvert, so I can turn it on and off anytime I want to. But I knew I had to forgive people. So I just paid lip service like we all did. Nobody teaches you how to forgive. So I was just saying, okay, I forgive you. And it was just lip service. But it helped, strangely. And I continued to do it. And then in 2020, some friends of mine and I discovered the real secret to forgiving people. And we came up with this system. Many people over the years, I'm a real big believer in science. So I have science to back up everything I say. Everybody says, well, anger is toxic. Okay, how? What is it? Just magically toxic? How does it affect you? Now you can Google this. There's a study called the Japanese water study by a guy named, and I always get his name wrong, Matsumoto. I know that's not exactly right, but it's close. And if you Google Japanese water study, I guarantee you it pop right up. What the guy did is he took 2 containers of water. One container of water, all he did was speak beautiful words to it, loving words, gorgeous words. The other container of water, he spoke hate. That's all he did. He just talked to it. He spoke hate and negativity. I mean, really ugly stuff. Then he froze the water and he put it under a microscope. The water he spoke love to had these beautiful formations. The water that he spoke hate to had these malformations, these black and brown, ugly things. The pictures are fascinating. So why am I telling you this? The human body is 95% water. So when you have self-talk that's awful and you're filled with hate and negativity, what do you think it's doing to the water cells in your body?
Drowning them out.
Anger to
It's
you?
literally making you sick.
So is negative self-talk the same thing as anger, or is
Sure.
it shame?
It's all of those negative emotions are turning the cells in your body and they're twisting them. Because hate towards a person or hate towards yourself is the same energy. Hate is still hate.
So I'm
When
curious.
so you're with forgiveness, and one of the first things I'm going to have everybody do is to make a list of all the people you think you need to forgive, and then I want you to rank them from 1 to 10. And I don't care. You could have 20 number 5s for all I care. I don't care. And you could skip a number if you want to. And then I'm going to have you start with the number 1s. And you might, a lot of people put themselves on that list as one of their, usually they're in the 8, 9, and 10. They usually have an unforgivable thing that they just can't forgive themselves for. So yes, it's hate something you've done. And when you're hating on yourself, that counts. It's toxic.
So it's interesting, and I definitely agree that when you don't know how to process, the negative energy within your body, it leads to disease and it is toxic. So I definitely am in alignment. I think for me, and I'm curious your perspective, because a lot of us weren't really taught how to process our emotions. Like
None of them are. Nobody
I
is.
joke with my clients, like your parents likely taught you, like they potty trained you. They taught you, you feel this thing in your body, you need to learn to go to the bathroom. And what I do a lot with my clients is I kind of help them expand their internal alarm system. Like that we all have an internal notification system. Like if I'm angry, if that kind of suddenly arises out of my body, that's a notification to me that someone's crossing a boundary. And so I go
Right.
in to kind of decode and understand. Now, that wasn't taught to me, it was something I learned along the way. And so is that still like if you take the message from the emotion, do you think that's still holding toxicity?
It depends on the message. I'm a big believer if you think your thought is toxic, it's toxic. If you don't think your thought is toxic, then it's not toxic.
Yeah. Yeah, what
And
you
everybody's got a different level of what they think is unforgivable. What I think is unforgivable might be completely different for you. And I'll look at you and say, Laura, what do you mean that's unforgivable? You're crazy. And you're thinking, no, this is unforgivable. So
see that?
let's go
Yeah.
through the method. Maybe this will help. I want you to start forgiving people. Start with the ones. I want you to be alone. I'd really like people to turn their cell phones off. There is an off button. It does exist. I told this to somebody a couple months back, and the color left her face completely, and she was like, "Oh no, I can't turn it off." Okay, mute it. And I don't want it to dance in the desk. I don't want to hear it jumping because I just want you alone in a room, completely alone with quiet, right? And imagine the person, pick somebody really easy, like the person who just cut you off on I-95 South. Okay, you could forgive that person, right? So you think about the car or the person who cheated off your paper in 10th grade. I don't care. Pick something easy. And you imagine that the person's in front of you. You don't have to burn incense unless you like it. You don't have to hold any crystals unless that's what brings you joy. Go for it. Don't care. But it's a very simple mantra. And it simply says, I completely forgive Laura. I completely forgive the energy around Laura. I completely forgive myself. I forgive the energy around myself. I completely forgive the energy around the whole thing. And then I want you to say that with your hand on your heart, because the words are just for the humans. It's really the energy behind, the emotions behind the words that mean it. And then I want you to check in with your body. Are they still a number 5, or did it go down to a 4? Or, which happened to a really good friend of mine, did it just jump up to a 9? That happens. The reason that happens is because your brain is a beautiful tool and it protects you. And it's looking at you saying, oh, Laura, great. You're ready for the back closet that you've had padlocked for 20 years. I'm going to open it for you now, and I'm going to flood you with memories. Oh, joy. Yeah, good times. This is, a lot of people call this shadow work. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So when it comes to forgiving the unforgivable, it's a bear. It's hard. It's really hard. So let me give you a visual for it. Let's say you're driving down the road and you see your grammar school, and you were bullied in grammar school. Yes, this is one of my memories. And by the time you get to work, you're grumpy, but you're not sure why you're grumpy. You're just grumpy because it's like a movie playing in the back of your head. You don't even know it's there. I was bullied. I didn't like it. And it happened 30, 40 years ago, and it's still tripping you up. You know, when I did this exercise, I was in my 50s, and I was getting upset about something that happened to me in the 1970s. That's stupid, but it was. So I want you to dive into that memory. And if you can't forgive the person, let's say the bully in this case, I want you to forgive the other things within the room because they all have energy around it. I want you to forgive the building, forgive the school, the energy around the school, forgive the table, the desk, the chair, the bench, the park, the seesaw, the swing, the people that stood around and didn't help you. Pick the memory apart. Forgive them all one by one, and the energy around all these things. And keep doing that for a few weeks. If you can never forgive the bully, that's fine. Forgive what you can and keep going. It's like running into a wall. Walk around the dumb thing and circle back later. So that's what I'm saying. You can forgive people, places, and things. I forgave 1974 because
The whole year?
the whole year. I said, I completely forgive 1974 and the energy around 1974. Absolutely. Because that's the year I tried to commit suicide. I forgave breast cancer because I'm a breast cancer survivor. I forgave the chemo. I forgave the chemo drip. I forgave the chemo chair. I forgave radiation. The slab that you have to, it is a slab. It's an awful table. It's cold. It's stainless steel. Forgave the table. Forgave the doctors, the nurses, anybody I could think of. Forgave the building. I forgave all of it. You can forgive people, places, and things. Then I have people, usually men, not bashing you men, but it is usually men, who look at me and say, I have nobody to forgive. Okay. All right. Let's talk about that. Sure. Okay. You don't have anybody to forgive. Do you watch sports? Yes. Do you like football? Yes. Did your team lose last weekend? Yes. Okay. Let's forgive the football team. Start there. Or say the following for the next week. I completely forgive myself for not being able to forgive and the energy around this thought. Say that every day for a week, and I guarantee the back vaults of your mind will start to open. This is really life-changing stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not just about, well, obviously it's not just about forgiving a person because you've said that, but uh it sounds to me like it's also like a way to process trauma. It's a way to process anger. It's a way to process disappointment. Like there's a lot of
Sure.
different elements to this forgiveness.
It is. It's like, let's take somebody named Aunt Martha. I don't have an Aunt Martha, which is why I use the name. And I've always said, if I do a podcast with somebody named Martha, I promise I'll change the name. But let's say Aunt Martha, it's Christmas time and you're always sitting next to Aunt Martha. Every family has an Aunt Martha. She drinks, she might smell, she pushes everybody's button. She's awful. And she has no filter, which is even worse. So, she practically makes you cry every year because she knows what buttons to push and she's heard and she's gossipy. So what do you do? Okay, before you even go to see that Christmas, I want you to forgive Aunt Martha. If you can't forgive Aunt Martha, I want you to forgive the energy around Aunt Martha. And then I have a friend who couldn't even do that. She was so angry. And I said, all right, well, let's pick a Christmas memory and pick it apart. Forgive the table that Aunt Martha was sitting at. Forgive the chair she was sitting in. Forgive the turkey. Forgive the people around the table that just watched the show and the energy, which is very important, the energy around it, and then pick out another memory. And then eventually, maybe after a few weeks, you'll be able to forgive Aunt Martha. So what's going to happen when you finally lay eyes on Aunt Martha? You're not going to care. In fact, you'll probably laugh because she's going to push your buttons. You're going to know she is, and it's not going to affect you. It's going to be like water falling off a duck's back. Turn it into a
So
drinking game. Every time she pushes a button, drink. And I'm sober and I'm telling you to do that.
timeline wise, what do you normally see with people as far as the journey to forgiveness?
It depends what number the person is that you're forgiving. If it's a number 10, you can't get a 10 down to a 1 overnight. I had a few number 10s and a few family members, a couple people, and it took to forgive my parents, it took months. Not trying to scare everybody off, but it took months to get that number 10 to a 9 to an 8. And this is very powerful stuff. This is an example of do as I say, not as I do, because I do my own stuff. I used to say I drink my own Kool-Aid, but I've decided that's a horrible example and we shouldn't do that. You guys probably are too young to know what that reference is. Please don't Google it. It's awful.
I know it.
Actually, yeah.
It's awful. But I sat down when we first came up with this method and I thought, okay, I'm a little bit of an overachiever. Shocker, I know. And I thought I had a list of like 40, 50 people. And I think this is going to be great. I'm going to be like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and I'm going to be completely new. Because I want you to do this before bed because your body heals itself when it's sleeping. And the water cells, those awful water cells have to go someplace, right? Okay. I did forgive many people on the list, but I also spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought was the stomach flu. It was not the stomach flu. It was my body trying to catch up to all the dark energy that I had just forgiven and gotten rid of. So the safe number is anywhere from 5 to 10 a night. My friend Katie tells people in her practice 2. But I think you can do 5 to 10 a night, no more, because you don't want to make yourself sick. So when you do forgive people, I feel it right here in my solar plexus, which is in the middle of your stomach, right above your belly button, below your chest. One of my sons feels his shoulders actually legitimately feel lighter, which he thinks is very strange because he's a federal law enforcement officer. So to that's a little woo-woo for him, but he did it and his shoulders felt lighter. I thought it was weird. Most people get tired, like really tired. Some people, politely said, are in the bathroom. You didn't need a piece of bad fish. It's just your body trying to transmute whatever you've done. But this is something I do. It's a nightly practice that I actually do absolutely every night.
Wow.
Not so much anymore, but for the most part, I do this every night before I go to sleep.
Like from something that happened during the day or?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, something that happened during the day or, forgiveness and anger is like an onion. There are many layers to that onion. And I might get to the center of the onion and think I'm done and another onion will appear. It's very irritating. So, there's always something to forgive. There's always somebody who does something to you during the day. There's always something. You could be watching the news. You can forgive anything. You can forgive politicians, dare I say. We won't go there. We can forgive the war in the Middle East. If it's on CNN and it's the war in the Middle East and that's making you mad, you can forgive that. What is it going to do for the war in the Middle East? Absolutely nothing. It's going to do everything for you. Forgiveness is personal.
Now I feel like you must have heard the podcast where I was mad at the world.
You can forgive the world. You can forgive the earth if you want to. You can forgive anything.
I
I've had
love
those days
that.
too, by the way. I have had those days where you're just fed up to here and you just, you don't want to people anymore. You've
I
done
like
it.
it. I want a dog, not a people. I want a
Yeah.
dog to that happens more days than I want to admit.
Yeah.
So I'm curious around this because yes, I totally agree with you about like forgiveness doesn't require you reaching out or getting forgiveness or anything or like getting something from them, I should say. You're not trying to get
Well, you can reach out if you want to. If you want closure and you really want to talk to Aunt Martha, knock yourself out. I mean, that's fine.
So what I'm curious about, like, is the experience you shared with your mom, where you guys kind of worked through that together. And I'm hearing a lot about like when you want to forgive people, places, or things that maybe you don't want contact with anymore. But what if the person that you want to forgive is someone you do have a lot of love for, like your mom? How
Right.
do you let go of that attachment without losing the love attachment?
I think once I forgave the stuff that she did, the love was always there because I
Mm.
loved her. And at the core, we're all little balls of love. I don't care how hate-filled you are. I don't care who you are. Everybody's got that core of love in them. We're born with it. And everybody can go back to that core. I firmly believe that.
I
But
do.
this system is really good to use in a team. If you want to do it with your significant other or a sister or brother or best friend. And it's very good to do because you can feed off each other, you can talk to each other, you can talk about the memory. It's a really good thing to do in pairs. I only have one word of caution. Whoever you're doing it with, please make sure they're not on your list of 10 people.
Makes sense.
I'm just saying.
So you mentioned how like when you go through this process, it will like you'll think of that person and they won't even register with you, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So when I'm just curious for like the complex situations, like I'm only using your mom because that was an example that you gave us. Like it's a complex
Hmm.
situation. I totally agree with you that we are born an embodiment of love and that's
Hmm.
always there. I think I'm curious how, like, okay, you forgave her where you thought about her and wouldn't even register, but then did that just like open the door to realizing the love was always there?
That's exactly what happened.
Okay.
See,
Thank
I
you.
can look back at my childhood now. If you talked to me 10 years ago, I would have told you all the toxic stuff that happened. I would have told you about the time that they were giving scotch to the dog because they wanted him to sleep on the way to Maine. Probably not a good story. He did live, and the dog is fine. Don't email me. Oliver lived to a ripe old age of 13. But I would have been able to tell you all these horrible stories. And now I really only remember the funny ones, like Oliver's story. I actually remember the adults that were there who were trying to help that teenage kid. I remember the love that was in my background, and I have a hard time remembering the dysfunction. I probably could if I really thought hard enough about it, but my it's almost like I've rewritten my past.
Mm,
Eh,
And I can go to family functions and I can see these. Most of my family is passed on, so it makes it a little easier for me. But back in the day, I could go and I could see these people and did what they did. Did I remember it? Yes, because you never forget. Remember, it's not forgive and forget. You're always going to remember, but it didn't bother me as much.
mm,
And when they came up to me, did I engage with them? Just because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you, but I'm the queen of small talk and I could talk about the weather like a boss. So I'm going to be perfectly warm, friendly, and approachable because in my background, I am a concierge trainer by trade, and it's what I did for 30 years. So I can kick on the customer service and put on my concierge cap and be really great, but I don't want a relationship with you. And the
mm.
trick is I usually keep the conversation on them.
Yeah.
It's kind of how you talk to a narcissist too. You just keep the conversation on them. It's really, there you go. You don't need to read a book. There you go. Solve that problem. Boom, done. Don't talk
And
about yourself. Talk about them. They'll be
what
happy.
about covert narcissists?
Oh, I don't like those people. I'm going to let you talk to them. You guys are trained.
I love that.
I'm just going to walk away from them at that point. No,
Yeah.
I usually listen to the little bird on my shoulder, and my gut usually gives me the right words that I need to say.
Oh, I love
I
that.
have a covert narcissist in my life, not necessarily anything I can do about because it was
No.
quote unquote inherited, if you want to call it that. And it's interesting because I agree with you that when you're dealing with a narcissist, they love talking about themselves. Just keep them
Sure.
focused on them, and it's a great conversation that has nothing to do with you.
They're going to think you're great too, and you didn't
I
say a
know.
word. You're
You're
such
like,
a
we had
good
a great
person.
conversation. It's like you weren't even here. It's like it could be a wall or a robot.
Mhm.
Robots are going to be great for narcissists. Anyways, I digress. But with covert narcissists, they, the ones I've experienced at least, don't like talking about themselves. So how do you
Probably not.
forgive? Like if you were raised with the covert narcissist as your mom, that is not
Mhm.
me for reference, but if you were, how do you forgive that? Same process?
Same process. As I
And
said, number 10s are a bear. That's why I'm telling you, these number 10 people, they're a bear, and they're usually family, or they're an ex-lover, or they're an ex-business partner. Those are your 10s, unless you were raped or something like that. Those are your 10s. And they're horrible. They're awful. They're really hard to forgive, which is why I have people pick apart the memory. And you might get the 10 down to a 9 and the 9 down to an 8. Eights are still a bear. So that's why this is going to take a minute, because it's going to take a while for you to peel back the layers of that onion. And you're probably going to have to go into several memories as you work it. But you have to be really kind to yourself, because this is a process and it's not really pretty. And I understand that a lot of people don't want to go back to their childhood, and that's fair. I didn't either. But I'm really asking you only go back a few more times, because I legit have changed the memories I have of my childhood, and they don't bother me anymore. I mean, they're gone. But I do have to give a little word of warning, just because I have to do this. When you forgive people, one of three things is going to happen. People are going to be attracted to you because you're going to be vibrating different. Which it merely means you're going to be putting off a different type of energy. And people are going to be attracted to that like a moth to a flame. So you're going to get positive people. Like energy attracts like energy. So you're going to attract a new set of people, which is brilliant, because that's what you want. They're optimistic. They probably care about you. These are the people we want to spend our time with. The other two groups are going to do one of two things. They're either going to bolt like jackrabbits, and you'll never see them again, which happened to me many times, or they're going to sabotage it,
Mm.
because they want your old energy back. They want the old Katherine back. They don't want this new person. I don't understand that new person, and you're kind of blinding me because you're so light-filled and happy now. I don't want you to be happy. I want the old one back. So yeah, and if I've always get entertained by that, because if I'm pissing you off, it's really not good, but it's a customer service thing. If I'm getting yelled at and pissing you off, I'm going to turn into Susie Sunshine from Sunnybrook Farms, and it's going to either really make you happy or it's going to piss you off even further, which is going to be very entertaining for me. If this is happening to you and you live with this person, well, just try and spend your time with more forward-looking people and the other people. Trying, look at podcasts like this one and spend your time with the more positive people. And if you're living with the number 10 that's abusive, please leave if you can.
Yeah.
Please
yeah,
leave.
you,
You
I think
can't change them, because you can't. Please
mm,
leave.
you, I think it was your friend, I might be misremembering, but your friend Kate who like tried to go through it and then it jumped to a 9,
Yeah, that was one of my friends. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Did she just have to continue the process
She
to like,
did. She did every night. And, I don't want you to forgive this person and then 10 minutes later, okay, I'm going to try again. I want you to sleep on it, wait 24 hours and try it again. So she tried it again and she couldn't even forgive the energy. Okay, wait 24 hours, try it again. So we picked apart the memory.
so did you ever have to find a new memory for someone? Like I'm curious around the complex.
Probably. It depends upon how bad the trauma is. It might, I
So,
mean, if it's an unforgivable person that's causing that much trauma, you probably should just forgive yourself, the energy around yourself, and keep going.
I like
Don't
that.
poke the bear. unless you're with a licensed therapist, and then you can poke the bear all you want. But if it's that traumatic and you're alone and you've read my book and you're doing the worksheets, and this is worksheets, I think you need a licensed therapist. Just forgive yourself, the energy around yourself, and keep going if it's that traumatic.
I think that's a really strong shift because I'm thinking of different clients that I've had who have told me horror stories about experiences they've had. And I've, reverberated a lot of what you've suggested. Like, you don't have to communicate with them. You can set these boundaries. If
Yeah.
you like, forgiveness is for you, but it doesn't always feel like that to people. So I like the shift of understanding, like, it's okay for you to forgive you. I'm curious where grieving comes into this, or if it
While
does.
you're doing it, while you're doing it. Now, the reason I want you to start with the easy ones is because you're going to start to feel better. If you start with the things, the people, places, and things you label a 1, 2, or 3, you're going to start to feel better. You're going to start to, the coffee is going to start to smell a little sweeter. The world is going to look more colorful. I'm actually not kidding. And you're going to start to really feel the positive energy, which is going to give you courage to keep going. And part of the process of dealing with these number 10s is I cried. I didn't want to do it, but I sat there, and it's just, it is, you have to do the work. When, if you really want to clear those 8s, 9s, and 10s, it's going to be painful. The memories are going to hurt, but we've been, at least I don't know about you guys, but we were taught in the 60s and 70s that negative emotions, stuff them right down into your belly. You know, you're
Rub some dirt
crying,
on.
I'll give you something to cry about, my parents used to say. And they were wrong. I want you to dive into those memories. I want you to dive into the pain, because that's how you're going to clear it.
I agree. I think
It sucks.
it
I,
totally sucks.
it's totally sucks.
It's like the water buffalo versus the cow. Are you familiar
Yep.
with? All right. It's they respond differently to storms. So when a water buffalo senses a storm coming, it charges towards the storm to mitigate the time that it's actually in the storm. Whereas if a cow senses a storm coming, they run away from it, ultimately enduring more storm because they get trapped because they're cows. And in a similar way, that's what it makes me think of. Like, if you're this is here. We all have something to forgive to certain degree, right? If
Every
you
one
don't
of
want
us.
to do 9/11, forgive that. Like, everyone experienced trauma around that. So, like, we all have stuff to forgive. We can carry it through our lives and get stuck in the storm longer, or we can be a buffalo and
That's
charge
right.
it to free our stuff. So the message is, be a water buffalo. I'm with you. I'm right here.
The law of forgiveness is very, very powerful energy, and I can prove it. It's like the law of gravity. You can call the law of gravity anything you want. You can call it the law of keeping Katherine on the ground. It doesn't care. It's still going to work. Well, I don't believe in the law of gravity. Seriously, it doesn't care. It's still going to work. So I sat down and I forgave what I thought was a level 1 person. It was an old friend of mine from grammar school. Couldn't even remember why we had a falling out. I hadn't talked to her in 30 plus years. So I sat down, said my mantra, and I imagined that she was standing in front of me as she was then, not the adult, the child. And then I said whatever I wanted to say to her. I got it all out, whatever I wanted to say. And then I watched her. I imagined that she walked out of the room toward the door, not the window, because I thought it would be kind of rude to make her fall out of a window. So I imagined that she walked out. And I can see things in my mind because I'm actually kind of clairvoyant and intuitive. If you can imagine your childhood bedroom in your mind right now, can you see your childhood bedroom? Can you see the color of the walls? That's what I want you to do. It's also, that means you're clairvoyant. It doesn't mean you're going to see ghosts tomorrow. It doesn't. It just means you see the answers. That's all it means. You see the answers in the world around you. And if you can't see in your mind, put a chair in front of your bed or your table, and you can even put the picture of the person in front of you or their name. Just talk to the chair. That's fine too. So I did that, and I felt the release. My shoulders felt lighter. I mean, it was a number 1. It was a level 1 person. It was super easy. 2 hours later, she called me up on the phone. and my concierge training kicked in virtually immediately. And we said the right words and made the right noises, and we reminisced and did what people do. And I couldn't stand it. And I said, I have to know. I'm a curious little bear. After all these years, why did you call me today? She said, you know, it's the darndest thing. 2 hours ago, which was exactly when I was saying my mantra, a figurine you gave me in school flew off my shelf and landed in the middle of my floor, and I thought I should give you a call. She was 600
Wow.
miles away from me. So if the forgiveness energy has the power to move a figurine for a level 1 person, can you imagine what it's going to do to a level 5 or 10 person? Imagine what that's going to do to your body. Imagine what that energy, how it's going to change your life. That's a true story. Might
Wow.
stretch your brains a little bit, but it's definitely a true story.
Oh no,
All
I
right,
love
I have 2 questions. Uh,
Sure you
just
do.
2. That's it. The first one is, when you do this nightly routine, how long do you spend on it? Because um I already try to do like meditations and manifestations and all that shit in the morning and at night, and I'm like, "Oh god, now I have to add this in here? How long is this going to take me?"
It takes me 2 minutes because I've been doing it a very long time.
Okay.
It might take 5 or 10.
Oh,
If you're doing level 1s, 2s, and 3s to begin with, it shouldn't take you very long because there shouldn't be a lot of anger there. It might be somebody who cuts you off in aisle 5 of the grocery store. One round will probably clear that right up. But as you go into the higher numbers, it might take a minute. It might take, for the higher numbers, it might take 20 minutes or so, especially if you have anger and you want to get it out.
okay, second question is about these onions.
Yeah, the
So,
onions are irritating.
so I feel as though I have forgiven my mother multiple times in my life already,
I'm
but
sure you have.
stuff just keeps happening, you know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
is that what we mean when we're talking about the onion, or is it like another memory that pops up, or how does that work?
It's both. You're going to hate my answer,
Okay.
but it's both.
Okay.
It's both. But
Okay.
once you forgive your mother for the big stuff, and we all have big stuff that we're holding our parents hostage for.
Yeah.
At least I hope my sons don't, but I they're in their 30s now. I might have to ask them. But hope I'm not on your list of 10. But it's once you forgive your parents for the big stuff or whatever you're holding them hostage for, it'll be easier for the little stuff. So the
Okay.
stuff that she does to irritate you now will irritate you less because you've forgiven the whole thing. So right now you're going after all this stuff at a level 10 and you've forgiven it, but you didn't forgive any of the energy. So the energy is still in your energy field. So it's all keeps coming back to you because it's still hanging around your energy field. So once you do this and you clear the energy and you say, I forgive my mother, I forgive the energy around your mother, there will be a shift. Even if
Okay.
you don't feel it. I've had people say, I didn't feel anything. No, you got rid of the first layer of the onion. You're probably not going to feel anything. Keep going because it
Okay.
works. You are clearing energy, even if you don't feel it. Just keep going.
There was a training that Laura and I went to together a while back, and I talk about it all the time. And one of the guys there was talking about something like this, but he was saying to send energy to that person. Do you ever do that, or is it really just about me?
Why would I want to do that?
I
I
mean,
don't
didn't
know.
you your figurine flying off the
I
shelf?
guess it
I-
did. I think my energy zapped out and it landed in her living room. So yeah, I did it without knowing what I was doing. The energy is going to go where the energy is going to go is really my answer. And if you want to purposely send energy to the person because they're a loved one and deep down you love them, do it. Absolutely. But if there's somebody that's unforgivable, why do I want to send energy to that slime bucket? Kind of don't.
I like our names for it. Dumpster fire, slime bucket.
Yes.
Let's keep going with
Yes.
it. Um, I am I'm also a curious cat, but have you ever worked with someone who's done this for years and like they just haven't been able to?
Yeah, I'm married to somebody like that actually. Yeah, it's there have been people I've run across that just, I have nobody to forgive, that they do, but they're just, some people, it's not that he doesn't have anybody to forgive, he processes things differently. And there are people out there, and they absolutely, they amaze me because they literally can walk away from stuff and they don't hold on to it. My younger son is like that, and my husband's like that. I got two of them, and they literally they just don't carry it, and it baffles me because I guess I hold on to things. Maybe it's because I'm a woman. I don't know what the answer is, but they literally toss it. They toss it, and he does probably have stuff to forgive because everybody does. But I've noticed that some people they just toss it and they just pay it no mind.
That's how Sebastian is, and it blows my mind because
Yeah.
some of the stuff that I feel like I hold resentments towards people in his life more than he does.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Maybe it's a testosterone poisoning thing. I don't know.
I've thought about that. Like, is it a difference of hormones? Like, what
It
is
might
this?
be. It might be.
I know a woman who does it, and I'm always very envious, and like I feel like I'm listening to magic when she talks to me.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't where she started, but it's where she ended. Like she
Mhm.
kind of worked her way through, and like she had MS, healed her MS, like really, really went through a transformative experience. And how she says it to me is like she learned the value of harnessing her energy for herself to then exude it to like the people she loves versus like not knowing what to do with the hurt. And I mean, we can get really into the weeds about why it's more men versus women and the different cultural messages, but timing and all. It's always very fascinating to me because I think like the idea of non-attachment living is inspiring, but I'm not exactly sure how you do it and love.
Mm.
I can tell you that from my perspective, because I have gotten through all of my list and I'm on like my 10th onion at this point. So I've done a lot of people in my past and I've tossed it all. And I am now to the point where I don't carry resentment anymore. I don't carry anger anymore. Now, I'm not saying I don't get angry. I'm not saying I don't get stressed out. I do, but I easily toss it and I add it to my nightly practice, and the practice takes very little time at this point. So now I am to the point where I'm very much like my husband. I just kind of toss it, but it's after, because I've worked these steps and I've worked the system. And
We need
I've
to,
tossed all of the stuff in my past. I just don't hold on to it anymore. I just don't.
but do you take testosterone now?
No, because I don't want testosterone poisoning.
Okay.
They suffer from testosterone poisoning and we do not. We do not have to deal with that. And they can have it. Don't email me,
Okay.
guys. I'm saying this with my tongue in my cheek.
So you said 10 onions. Is that where you got your 12 books? Because this all sounds so, this is something that I love about psychology. The answers are often so simple, but not. So how in the hell did you get 12 books out of this?
I like to write. I wrote several business books. I am one of the founders of the independent concierge industry, so I wrote a bunch of books about the concierge industry. I retired from there in 2020, and I've written a book about my cancer journey called Rainbows and Banana Peels. And I wrote that book on my cell phone in a chemo chair because I was bored. I love to write, so it's just what I do. And then I wrote a book called The Little Bird on Your Shoulder, which teaches you how to tap into your intuition and have a two-way conversation with it. And now I've written a book about forgiveness, and this is the first book of three. So the next book of the series will be about how to forgive yourself. And then I have a couple
Hey,
books that are out of print. So yeah, if you add them all up, it comes to 12.
okay. I was thinking they were all about forgiveness, but that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
No, I write about all sorts of things. On many, many topics.
Okay.
On that point, do you ever have people write down their forgiveness mantra?
Sure. Absolutely. If you want to write down stuff because you're a writer like me, it's like writing a diary. You know, it's like years ago, somebody said, if you're mad at somebody, write them a letter and don't send it and then just burn it. Just don't burn your house down. I did that and it really didn't help me because it's the energy thing. I didn't forgive the energy. But if you want to write things down and then forgive that person and the energy around it, that's cool. Just don't forget to forgive the energy around the person or they're going to keep coming back and haunting you.
Okay. I love that element because I definitely haven't heard that piece before.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I mean, we all definitely do have an aura, so it makes a lot of sense of, we are energetic people. And whenever people are skeptical, I'm like, why are you skeptical of energy? You're not skeptical of Wi-Fi. And it's
That's it.
the same idea. But like, even if like that doesn't translate, when someone's laughing and you don't know what they're laughing at, you're like pulled towards them and you're smiling. Why are
And
you
everybody
laughing?
laughs.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like there's so many moments that you can recognize a contagion in our different energy fields, but it's when it comes to healing and processing that we're like, no, it doesn't exist there. We're not going to do that's not real.
So the fact that the three of us are talking magically on a box,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's magic to it. I guess that's what it is. No, it's energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's hoodoo voodoo. I don't know what it is. Yeah, no, it's energy. And I agree with you. I've had to keep my own counsel many times because people don't believe me. It's like if you don't believe Einstein, okay, you do you.
You don't want to believe me? That's your choice.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean less right.
that's right.
I do love that you said in the beginning, and Einstein did say this because I feel like Einstein gets misquoted a lot.
No, he did. Yeah, he did. And I purposely have a science chapter in the book purposely be for the naysayers in the group. So I did find some studies. That Japanese water study just happens to be my favorite. There was another one done with plants in the United Arab Emirates on Anti-Bullying Day, and the kids were given two plants, and the plants were all watered and every equal things, and it was done by IKEA. And the kids were told to say nice things to one plant and bad things to another. And the same thing happened. The one that they said love to thrived. The one they said bad things almost died. Myself, I have a plant downstairs that we call Grandpa because I've had him for 30 years. I think his birthday is 31 years in a couple months.
That's awesome.
Why? I talk to it, I water it, I say nice things to it.
Oh,
Okay,
I
I don't
talk to my
talk to it
plants
when people
too.
are around.
I
Usually.
tell my kids to go out and sing to the plants. They don't do
There
it,
you go.
but
There you
You gotta
go.
start talking to the birds, Alicia.
yeah, we do.
There you go. Only
There's
nice.
a lot of things in the world that you were taught that now we have to relearn
Yeah.
Yeah.
because this is one of them. We were taught to run away from the negative emotions. Okay, that was wrong. I want you running to them. We were
Mhm.
taught that forgiveness, yeah, forgive, but we weren't taught about the energy behind these things. We weren't taught about like energy attracts like energy. Okay, it's more than atoms. It works with people too. So this stuff it works just because we weren't taught it. This works. It will change your life if you work it.
Oh, I love it.
There you have it, folks.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us today. This was so fun, and that's all I care about.
My pleasure. My
I love
pleasure.
the impact. I mean, thank you for doing this work and helping people understand how to forgive, because I know it's a struggle a lot of people have. And I hope, our listeners can practice it's a very simple practice. So it's not
It
like you're
is.
asking for hours of dedication, but more just, minutes of witnessing. So I appreciate the energy you're putting out into the world as well.
Well,
Yes,
thank you. Yeah, and
absolutely.
there's worksheets and stuff in the back of the book. And for anybody who doesn't like to read, I do have the audiobook available. My younger son and produced it. We're still talking to each other magically. Shocker. So there you go.
You must not be on his list.
I'm not on his list. Doing an audiobook is not as easy as you would think. I
Oh,
have mad respect for anybody who does the animated movies because it's not as easy as you would think. It really isn't. It's kind of hard. So I have a lot of respect for the industry now.
I
That's
can
great.
imagine.
Yeah. Well,
I
thank
hope
you so much for coming on and sharing your messages. I guess to close, Alicia, what was your biggest takeaway? And then I'll share mine.
I think it's forgiving the energy around, and then also if you can't forgive, then forgiving the objects, forgiving the place, forgiving yourself. I think those things are things that we're kind of missing from my understanding of this subject.
Yeah. I'd say for me, mine is about kind of the onions and
Mhm.
understanding the process. Because, Katherine, you mentioned like you don't want to scare anyone off. And I get that, but I'm also someone who operates with the idea that people like to know what to expect. And
Right.
if people go in like, oh, I just have to do this for 3 nights and then I'll go away, they won't even really give it a shot. So
Yeah,
I really like that message of understanding that like it takes time, but you're worth the time and it is for you. So I think
it
that was
is.
the takeaway.
I mean, it takes, the ones, twos, threes, anything between a 1 and a 6, you can probably toss in a few weeks after 2, 3 rounds of it. The upper numbers, it's going to take a minute.
Buckle in.
Buckle in. And be kind to yourself. You're worth it. And for the women out there, because this is typically a woman problem, you are worthy enough to lead a life of joy. You are worthy enough to have a beautiful career and be happy. You are worthy enough.
Oh,
And
that's
we're out.
beautiful.
That's what we end on. I totally agree.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye.
Bye, ladies.